Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Double Take. You might have just listened to our 50th episode. Maybe you didn't. We thought it makes sense to split these two episodes up because we had a Super Bowl and we had the NBA trade deadline, two huge topics that we have to discuss. So I'm Alex. I'm here with my brother, John. And John, we obviously had a really, really fun trade deadline week last week. There was a few trades going into the week. I think on Tuesday, we had the Pacers and Kings trade Tyrese Halliburton for Domantas Sabonis, among other players. We had a Norman Powell deal where the Blazers were unloading him, sending him to the Clippers. And there were maybe a few other ones. But of course, the big one that we all had circled, I had been, peppering our NBA group chat with screenshots of ESPN Trade Machine.
Was going on Dragic getting dropped by the Raptors, right?
Yes, we're traded to Spurs. That's the one. No, that wasn't it, John. It actually was a few variations of a Ben Simmons trade. Now, I had one where they would trade Simmons for Harden, and they would also be giving up Danny Green and Seth Curry. I had other ones where I included Paul Millsap going to Philadelphia. I had other ones where I had Simmons getting traded to Bradley Beal, because I think the Wizards at this point should probably blow it up, especially since he's out for the season and he can opt out this season and be a free agent. But out of all those, there was a few that I had that were correct, that were, pretty similar to the one that actually happened. And it was the Brooklyn Nets will receive Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. One of them is protected. And Philadelphia will receive James Harden and Paul Millsap. John, what do you think? I have very strong opinions on this trade. I'm glad it happened. I think it should have happened. I think it made sense for both teams. I also think that as a Heat fan, this is not good for us. But John, what were your takeaways from that trade?
Yeah, I think the Heat fan instinct is the one that hits me first. And I'm like, shoot, the East really was wide open this year. Embiid was killing it. I'd give him MVP. It's right. It's him or Jokic. But the Sixers didn't have enough to get out of the East. The Bucks have come in a little bit slow to start the year. We still think they're probably the one team, I think, they're probably still the favorite. And then there's the KD, Kyrie, Harden, just, clusterfuck, for lack of a better term. Like, what are they? Like, we didn't know. Kyrie's playing half the games. Harden, got, fat and is like now he's not as good as he was, and the whole foul rule changes. KD's still putting up 30 a game, then he gets hurt. So it's like Nets aren't going to make it out. So really, it's like, who are you most confident in the East, right? You got the Bucks there, Giannis and the team's back together. Once Brook Lopez comes back and they're healthy, they'll be ready for the playoffs to make their run, to win back-to-back rings. After that, I'm like, give me the Heat. Tucker's been an insane role player. He's been awesome. He filled that Jay Crowder role in even a better way than Crowder did 2 years ago when we made it to the finals. Butler, Jimmy, Lowry, Hero have all missed time. Butler and Bam. They've all missed time.
Like, what are you talking about?
They've all missed time. And the Heat are still were the number one seed. Spo's coaching in the All-Star game for Team Durant. Unfortunately, I wish it was Team LeBron instead. But, all that being said, now we really took 2 of the, mid-tier teams, playoff teams, I would say, and they swapped players that just made sense for them to swap, and they're just better now. Simmons fills the holes that everyone's been saying about this Nets team. Defense. He's going to play defense. Like, to me, it's like, if he can just try and be like, 2013, 2014 Blake Griffin, 2015 Blake Griffin, like
2015.
Set picks. Blake was actually, he had some good handles. He made some plays when
handles, and he's a good passer. Blake Griffin's always been a good passer.
The one thing I think was Blake was probably like a much better shooter. Like, he could at least hit baseline J's and occasionally let the 3 fly, whatever. So Blake was, if he can be like that with Kyrie and KD, and another thing will be he could be the best defensive player in the NBA, right? That's something that Blake, you could say was solid, but was not that. So, okay, Nets, I'm not counting them out. The Kyrie situation, they still need to figure out. They need to figure out what's going to happen.
Maybe, John, there might be nothing to figure out. It might just be, all right, New York lifts its mask or whatever, vaccine mandates because, COVID becomes less of an issue.
They need to like start lobbying.
It's really a public health thing. It's not even a basketball thing at this point.
They need to start lobbying because I'm sure they're the one team that's suffering from this, which is it's crazy that he's unable to play home games, but he's gonna play half the game. There was a funny meme that was like, oh, they have the best big 2.5 in the league because it's not a big three, of course.
Yeah.
So that's the net side of things. And then you add Harden, you pretty much you take what the Sixers have done this year, and they're only a couple games out of the one spot too. They've been really good with Embiid, and Tyrese Max has been awesome, and the role guys. You pretty much swap Seth Curry and Harden for what they've done this year. Because think about it, Ben Simmons was not contributing anything this year.
He didn't have it. He didn't show up, except he just refused to jump in that defensive drill.
And to me, this is the biggest thing of it all. Embiid, he's a killer and he wants to win, and I think. I would be surprised if Harden and Embiid didn't get along. I think Harden wants to win. So if Harden
he does want to win, and John,
hold on, wait, let me finish. And Embiid wants to play with a great player after how sick he is of not playing with another guy that wants it. With everything he went through with Simmons, he loved Butler. I think he's probably looking at
Jimmy, but Jimmy's built different. Harden and Jimmy are quite different players.
They are different. But just to finish this, what I'm saying. They're 2.5 games out of the 1 seed. You swap Seth Curry with James Harden. Embiid's going to keep pushing that foot to the pedal. Hopefully he stays healthy, doesn't get hurt. But this is the biggest factor for James Harden. He's back with Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey might be the biggest James Harden fan in the world.
It's not even a question. There's got to be no one on earth who loves James Harden. Yeah. Maybe James Harden's mom and then Daryl Morey. That's it. Yeah, that's the
James
list.
Harden himself, but other than that, it's Daryl Morey, who is the GM, of course, for the Rockets, who did their whole Morey ball, offense that was really just centered around Harden doing 2 things: getting free throws, shooting threes, and if Harden got double teamed,
isolation, a lot of isolation.
Right, a lot of isolation, and if Harden somehow got the ball out of his hands to find an open 3-point shooter like PJ Tucker or Eric Gordon or even CP3 when he was on the team too, who was playing off ball more. So. To me, Harden being back with Morey is like, all right, cool. Like he's already bought in. There's no like, oh, we got to get Harden to buy into Steve Nash, and they got to get, Harden to buy into playing with Kyrie, and there's none of that. Morey is his guy. Morey has been on the record saying Harden should have more MVPs than he has. Harden, we're gonna look back in 30 years from now, we're gonna look back at the numbers and we're gonna say, wow, Harden was much better than we all, made it. So. He's preaching the gospel of James Harden, and I think because of that, Harden's going to be on board. So now you look at that team. Shoot, I might even say that team looks better than the Bucks. Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer actually did. He said that if he had to pick the East right now, he says the Sixers are the team to beat. And I think with the pick and roll, with the scoring, you can really do anything with that team. And so, bad luck for the Heat.
So definitely, I think it's very rare that you get 2 teams both gunning for a championship and they swap superstar, or not super. I won't call Ben Simmons a superstar, but they stop, very high caliber players in this fashion and both get better. It's a very weird, I would say, unusual, unprecedented trade that we just saw take place. On the Harden side of things, it's a bad look for him. It's a bad look for what happened when he forced his way out of Houston, who he had been with them for a while. He had, he definitely had some flameouts in the playoffs. He didn't deliver when I think he could have performed better in the playoffs. And then he forces out of there. Okay, whatever. I think at this point, every NBA star is doing it, right? He showed up fat. He was at the strip club. He just didn't care, right? Didn't care. And now you go to the Nets. All right, he's gonna be happy. He's playing with Kyrie and KD. And then, of course, Kyrie's situation is crazy. KD's injured. All of a sudden, we're seeing more, compilations of him getting lost on defense and just blatantly not trying on defense. And he's still looking a little bit heavy. Now what happens? Forces to trade again, which, on both sides for Simmons and Harden, if the other situation didn't exist, neither of these guys get traded. I truly believe that. Like, this is a perfect storm. It was honestly like lightning in a bottle for those 2 guys, but they got what they wanted. And now we're seeing pictures of Harden in practice, and he looked kind of skinny. He did not look as big as he just did a few days ago. People on Twitter are making jokes. He's a shape shifter. But then on the Ben Simmons side of things, John, I've actually always been an advocate for him. I think PP gets too much hate. I think he's very good at a lot of things on the basketball court. One of them happens to be the thing that you might want someone to do the most of. But, we don't hate on other guys for not having like, like other, like if some guys can't pass, right? No one's like, oh, they can't pass. That's also a big aspect of the game. So I think when you're Simmons, who's a great defender, he's a very good passer, he can rebound the ball. Now you're playing with two of the best shooters in the game. Maybe if they can get their other players back healthy. They also still have Seth Curry, who, I think Brooklyn, honestly, I think Brooklyn won the trade, John, if we had to pick a winner, because Harden this summer is going to, he opted in, but he'll be eligible at some point to ask for a 4-year, like something in between $200 and $230 million, which is about $50 million a year, John, for a guy who's not just on the wrong side of 30, but he's getting, deep into his 30s. So now if you're the Nets, you get a much younger player who's, in my opinion, he's a distressed asset. He hadn't played in a minute. He had his whole situation with Embiid. He obviously, Doc Rivers kind of threw him under the bus. That was a situation that contributed to him not wanting to play. So I think that the Nets won the trade because you also got them to give you 2 first-round picks and Seth Curry.
I agree.
Now, this doesn't mean that I don't think the Sixers can win it all. I put $5 on them to win the title. I like these $5 long shot bets. $5 on them to win the title.
I would do it as well. The odds are.
Well, John, I did it before they made the trade. I was anticipating they made the trade. The odds went from plus 1,400 to now they're plus 600. So
it's funny because that was me last year. I was the one staying, but this is when Harden was still on the Rockets, where I was like, give me the long shot for the Sixers. They got Simmons and Embiid. Like these are 2 young studs. Like I want to see them make it back. And if it doesn't work out, then they make the Harden trade, and then my odds are gonna get, small are gonna get even better. So yeah, I had that last year, but that's good that you're doing it. It is funny though to think that trade could have happened where Simmons went to the Rockets, and now it happened except after Harden had already gone to the Nets.
Yeah, it's crazy, and this opens up. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit in a minute about just kind of superstars and being unhappy, and everyone wants out, and kind of this instant gratification, attention deficit era that we live in. We are included in this. We want everything immediately. We want Uber Eats ordered to our door. We want to stream whatever movie we want. We want, like, everything now has become so instantaneous, and there's no, I think anytime we're uncomfortable now, we're trained that, like, that's not okay. That shouldn't be right. So any of the times these NBA superstars are just a little bit, who knows how uncomfortable Harden was, or how uncomfortable Kyrie was in Boston, or Ben Simmons. Now there's the mental health aspect. The truth is we don't know. And I think clearly there's a big difference. Maybe it starts with LeBron in 2010 going to Miami. Maybe it was even, there was bolstered by Kevin Durant going from a pretty good situation in OKC to like the best case scenario in Golden State, and then still wanting to jump ship after that. So it's kind of this thing where, in a weird way, I feel like I'm going kind of a long tangent here, but in a weird way, we have 2 sides of the NBA. We have all these guys who are jumping ship every few seasons, it feels like. And then you have the guys like Giannis, who signed that big extension. We thought the Heat might be able to get him. You have Dame Lillard, who, I guess he might be on his way out of that camp soon. You have John Morant, who seems like he's in for the long haul. Luka seems like he'll be in for the long haul. I feel like there's another young player that I'm forgetting, but there's Jokic. Jokic doesn't care. Jokic is putting up ridiculous stats. He's in the MVP conversation. He's a top 4 player in the league, if not top 2 or 3. And he doesn't care. He's in Denver with, playing with whoever he's playing with amid all these injuries. So we have those guys. Then we have the guys who are jumping ship. It's definitely making it interesting. And I feel like, John, in the NFL, where we're kind of, it seems like it's very fun to talk about, the on-field product. In the NBA, I feel like we are always more geared towards talking about like the off-court stuff, right? It's like a reality TV show.
It is.
So, yeah. Anyway, I think I have a question for you, John, now. All right. As a Heat fan, well, you know what? Actually, let's segue into our winners and losers, and I'll ask you this question. So let's do our winners and losers of the trade deadline, John. And I'm going to open up, and I'm going to say a loser is the Miami Heat, okay? And in saying that, I actually have a question. So when Shams reported that the Nets and Sixers finalized the trade to send Harden for Simmons, I retweeted it and I said Heat in 5. Okay, of course I was gonna do that. It's Heat Twitter. I'm a Heat fan. I gotta do it for the culture. But now you look at it. Now you look down the line. All right, let's look at the East. Milwaukee Bucks just won the NBA title. Brook Lopez, their starting center, who's huge to their defense, has only played one game this season. He's been unhealthy, but they added Serge Ibaka, who can do a lot of the same things that Brook Lopez does. And if Brook Lopez can come back, that's good. So the Bucks improved, I think, at the deadline. The Nets, they got rid of Harden. I think they improved at the deadline. Obviously, KD health and Kyrie vaccine situation, that's something else. But those two teams on paper, they're as good as anyone in the NBA, in my opinion. Then you go to the Sixers. Embiid is the MVP right now, in my opinion. And they just added James Harden, a guy who he's never played with anyone of that caliber. Embiid has not. You look at the Cavs, who somehow are still, top 4, whatever, in the East. I think they're top 3. And they have a fun young team. They added Karis LeVert, who's already been, playing well for them. Miami, we obviously haven't been fully healthy this season. If we get healthy, maybe we add Oladipo, who that might be like our fucking trade deadline acquisition.
Exactly.
If we can add him, we'll improve. So that's good for us. Chicago's also got some guys injured. When you look at Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, even Pat Williams, I don't know if these guys are going to come back, but if they can, they're also a team to be worried about. Guess who else, John, I haven't mentioned? The team that has Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, just added Derek White, who he does a lot of the same things as Marcus Smart, but I do think they improved. But John, they won 8 straight games. So you have to look at Boston and say, okay, they're not nothing anymore. Like a few weeks ago, I thought they were nothing. Now they're making a run. Toronto, they also won 8 straight games, and they just lost the last 2. But Toronto's a good young team still. So those are 8 teams I think that I mentioned in the Eastern Conference. They should be in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And guess who I didn't mention? I didn't mention the Charlotte Hornets, who are a few games behind the Nets, actually, in the 9th seed. They're going to be in the play-in, and the Hawks. So those teams I'm not worried about in the playoffs. My point is there are 10, decent and pretty talented teams in the East. And I know I just said I was going to ask you a question, and then I went through a long soliloquy. But my question to you, John, is this. How do you feel as a Heat fan? And if you had to right now pick who would make the Eastern Conference Finals, who would you pick?
So this is the thing. This is the most important thing. You went down, you named all these teams. You talk about like who kind of seems like they have a better, like, the Bucks are defending champs, and now the Sixers are kind of like the number 2 behind them because they have they got the Harden trade, whatever. And the Nets, forget all that. Look at the seeding. We haven't cared the past few seasons about seeding, right? What seed were we last year when we lost? We got swept by the Bucks. We were the 6th seed, right? They were 3.
Yeah, they were
the
3.
year before that, what were we when we go to the finals? We were a 5 seed. We didn't care, right? We got our guns this year, though, and we're still an underdog. We don't care. We don't need to be a 6 seed or a 5 seed to be an underdog.
Well, we're a 1 seed.
Get the 1 seed. We're still the underdog. Honestly, I would say this: Phoenix Suns, I would say, they're much better than us. They're 46-10. They're 10 games above us. We're the 1 seed in the East. They're the 1 seed in the West, and they're 10 games. They're 10 games above us. Okay. But similarly, the media doesn't care to talk as much about the Suns because it's not fun that they're being dominant. It's not fun to talk about the Heat, who have been winning with a bunch of like G League dudes and Butler and Bam in and out, whatever. The Heat have the 1 seed. We need to get it this year. We need to prioritize that. We need to rest PJ Tucker. Don't burn him out, at 35, age 36, however old he is. Don't burn him out. But we need to get the 1 seed because that's gonna help in a big way. Hopefully, though, we see then like the Sixers and the Bucks get the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and we can avoid those 2 teams. Those are the 2 teams I want to avoid. Right now, those 2 teams are the 4 and the 5 seed. So technically, if the playoffs started today, we would face the winner of that matchup in the second round, which is ridiculous. So that's the thing that's scary about all of this too. We're the 1 seed right now. Who's the 8 seed? The Brooklyn Nets. So there's a reality. There's a reality in which we face the Nets at the 8 seed, 1 versus 8, and then we face the winner versus the Sixers and Bucks in the second round. And then, you look at the 2 versus the 3, it almost makes you say, shoot, like the Bulls or the Cavaliers are the 2 versus the 3. And then, the 6 is the Celtics and the 7's the Raptors. Like, I'd rather almost be playing with those 4 teams than with the Nets at the 8 seed and the 4 versus the 5 being the Sixers and the Bucks. So the way the East breaks down is going to be important, but I still say we should prioritize getting the 1 seed. You get it, win as many games as possible. And if, let's say, you need to do a little turbo tank and give the Bulls the 1 seed with the last 4 games of the season.
I don't know if that works, John. I'm scared.
I'm just saying, if it doesn't seem like the Sixers and the Bucks are going to get out of there, out of the 4 or 5 seed matchup, then shoot, avoid that. You cannot face one of those teams in the second round, and you cannot face also the Nets as an 8 seed. So the whole play-in situation too, maybe the Nets get the 7 seed. It's scary to see, but
well, the Nets, if it's a play-in, I'm assuming the Nets will be able to win that game and end up jumping to the
right.
7.
So that's I guess my point there is like you almost you need to put your head down, you need to win games, and however the seeding breaks down, it breaks down, and you hope that you're going to play like the Hornets or the Hawks at the 8 seed if you're the 1 seed. But that's my thing for the Heat.
That's probably not going to happen either.
Who would I pick right now? I'm going to stick with, I would say, Milwaukee getting out. I'm going to probably throw $10 on the Heat and $10 on the Sixers.
Oh, right? I already did.
So I'm going to hop on that wagon too. But I think that the Heat have a shot, but it's going to be tough. Like, I would much rather see the Bulls, see the Cavs, or even the Raptors. Like, the Cavs and the Raptors, we haven't beaten them this year. They beat us twice, actually, both of them. But at the same time, like, we were injured in those. Like, Butler missed both those games, I think, for the Cavs and the Raptors. We weren't fully healthy. So I'm not worried about those teams in the playoffs, even though they beat us in the regular season. I do not want to see the Sixers or the Bucks.
Okay, I agree with you. I've been saying there's 4 juggernauts in the East: Bucks, Sixers, Nets, and I've thrown the Heat in there. I think if I'm actually looking at it objectively, you have to favor those 3 teams over us because they have Giannis, Embiid, and Kevin Durant, 3 of the top 4 players or 5 players in the NBA. And our best player is Jimmy. And we obviously are a more, I would say, deep team. But I think looking at even what happened, John, in the NFL playoffs, like the Bengals, they kind of like got the right matchups and somehow they made it to the Super Bowl. They obviously faced the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs fell apart in the second half.
7-game series though, too.
It's not 7-game series, but in the same way, like if you let's look at the Heat. All right. If we let's say we played like, the Raptors in the first round, and then second round, we somehow end up playing, like, just based on the seeding, there's 2.5 games between the 1 seed and the 5 seed. And then there's only 7 games between the 1 and the 8. So like a lot of these, especially over the next, half of the season, are going to get shuffled up. And so let's say the Heat go against the Raptors in round 1, Cavs in round 2. And now in round 3, we're playing, Milwaukee. Like, I think we can beat Milwaukee. Can we beat Philadelphia? I think we beat Philadelphia. If the Nets make it and something happens similar to last year where Kyrie's injured or KD's in, we can beat them too. So like, while it's actually a bloodbath, and I'm kind of saying the Heat are a loser of the trade deadline because nearly every team in the East that we care about got better, I'm still feeling confident, but you're right. We should absolutely. I'm worried. I would say I have a healthy fear. You have to be afraid of those teams, but I'm not jumping ship just yet. Like I'll wait until our seeding. Once, like last year, once we played against, our seeding was our path would have been like Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Philly. I was like, it's not happening for us this year. So wait till the seeding happens, and then I'll make my actual. I'll maybe jump ship on our finals prospects. So that's our first loser. John, do you want to give me a winner of the deadline?
Yeah, so I actually would say, this is just random going off all the contention talk, but I would say the Indiana Pacers. And although they got rid of Sabonis, I think the problem with Sabonis was, you say that's a lose. He was a win now guy though. However, they just got Tyrese Halliburton, who is 21 years old, is shooting incredibly from 3. I don't have exact numbers in front of me. It's like 40 something percent. I think he's like 40% on his catch and shoot threes and on his off the dribble threes. He's also shooting like I think off the dribble. I want to say he's shooting like top 3 in the league percentage wise. 21 years old. He's like 11th in assists, right? So this dude's a stud. The other night, let me just say, this was just stat line last night. Okay, they lost. So good. They're losing. They're still tanking. They're
still tanking it out.
But 22 points and 16 assists in 41 minutes. He's 21 years old. He's younger than you and me, Alex. So the fact they pulled him off of it, yet who else did they get out of that trade? Buddy Hield, another great 3-point shooter, right? They got him from it, and they still got a young talented team. I mean, we'll see what happens with.
They have Miles Turner. Malcolm Brogdon's still there. They have Chris Duarte, I think is his name. He's that young rookie who I haven't watched, but every time I look at the stats, he's somehow,
Right.
doing work.
So I kind of think, on our last episode, we talked about, the AF, people, it used to kind of look like, the AFC is just Tom Brady's, conference, and then he'll play the Falcons, the Seahawks, the Rams, like whoever each year, right? It kind of looked like, or the Eagles, it kind of looked like the NFC was the more league with parity. But now you look at it, it's same thing in basketball, whereas like now it's flipped in football. The AFC looks way more stacked. In basketball, it's the same thing. You'd say it used to be always the West. The West is way more loaded. LeBron could never win out West. Now you look at the East. The East is more loaded, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so, now I'm talking about the Pacers. This team might end up being good next year too. If they,
yeah, I thought they'd be good this year. There's a team that I still like their team on paper.
TJ Warren's injured. Malcolm Brogdon's injured. They just got Buddy Hield. They just got Tyrese Halliburton. Who knows? Maybe they'll draft what's his name? The guy who crashed his car on Duke that we just watched the other day.
What's his name? Paolo Banchero. Yeah, I mean, dude, that'd be insane.
I want to go on the record because I said this when they had Marvin Bagley. Marvin Bagley, to me, I said, I don't know what position he's going to play. He's not really a rim running center, and he's not really like a stretch power forward.
Wait, you're saying about Banchero? No.
I'm saying that's what Bagley looked like. I've only watched one game of Banchero, and he was playing against.
He's not Bagley. He's definitely not. He's not a good shooter. He's definitely not a good shooter yet, or I would say 3-point shooter yet. And even like it's not like he's shooting a lot of mid range. But I mean, I was sitting courtside, and this is a quick aside, and we were at the BC Duke game. I was sitting courtside because I got there extremely early. Okay. And he's big. He's a big dude.
He's big. He's 6'10". Is he gonna play center though?
No, John, come on. I mean, look how many big guys do we have in the league like that? Like
my point is this. It's the same thing I said with Marvin Bagley, and I'm glad. I hope in a year from
now. You have no idea. I mean, you don't even know. It's not like you knew anything about Marvin Bagley either.
Eye test. I was like, he's 6'10". He's really big. Like, what position is he playing? He's not Anthony Davis.
He's right? a 4. He's not. No, he's not, bro. He's more of like a. I think it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter.
The Marvin Bagley.
No, he's not. Okay. All right. Fine. Good.
Side aside. Let's say.
I wish Eli was here to expose you because I don't know enough about Banchero anyway.
Nah, he'd be raving about Chet Holmgren, like the super skinny dude. All
right. A lot of takes. So this draft's just gonna suck then, John.
Yeah, this draft's just gonna suck. All bust. So I guess that doesn't bode well for my argument. My Pacers argument is, look, they already got a really good young core. If they get a good draft pick, and I don't know, I'm half joking about Banchero and Holmgren, whatever. Just because I haven't been watching a lot of college ball.
Yeah.
But who knows? If they get a nice young stud to throw at this team, Pacers are going to be young guns with Rick Carlisle, a championship coach. So Pacers are a winner for me.
Yeah, and I think, John, you wanted to do the Pacers a winner. I wanted to do Tyrese Halliburton as a winner because, and you were saying, well, no, he's upset that he got traded from Sacramento. That's the best thing that ever happened to him. I mean, if you want to be in Sacramento and you get traded, it's only up from here. It's only up from here. He's going to play for Rick Carlisle, who's won a championship. I mean, and the fact of the matter is Sacramento might be the worst franchise in sports right now. I think they should relocate. I think they're clearly dysfunctional. They have the longest, streak without even making the playoffs in the NBA, which is almost shocking that if you look at every NBA team, you can say over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, they've all made the playoffs except for Sacramento. So, but 2 quotes. Tyrese Halliburton wrote an article for the Players Tribune. 2 quotes that he had that just, oh man, it shook me. He said, he talked about, how he found out he got traded. They said, and that was that, from no way to traded in 30 minutes. I've literally waited longer at Cold Stone. I waited in line longer at Cold Stone than that. And the next one was, he said, if you ask his Sacramento teammates, which guy on this team most wants to be in Sacramento long-term, everyone would have said me. If you're a Kings fan, that's just a dagger to you. That's a dagger to your heart. And he was crying, who knew, man, anyone would cry after being traded away from Sacramento, but definitely very likable guy. He was definitely their best asset. I'm still, I do enjoy De'Aaron Fox, but I think Halliburton's upside is really higher.
Shout out our good friend from high school, Kurt Carlson. He's somehow still a Sacramento Kings fan, and he's also a Detroit Lions fan.
He might be a a free agent though, John.
He
He
did.
might
He
be a
said
free
this
agent.
is it. After all the pain that Sacramento Kings have caused him in his, in his 22-year-old lifetime, he said he might actually finally have to hop on off the wagon. So, Kurt,
Yeah.
come to the Heat. You're from Miami, bro. Well, I don't know why you're a Kings fan.
Okay, so recap on our winners and losers. We had Miami Heat as a loser. We had the winner as Halliburton and the Pacers. I'll do another winner, John. Winner, unhappy superstars. They are kind of really in control. I mean, we talk about player empowerment era. This is one of the biggest, like gold stars for if you're someone who's really like player empowerment guy. I mean, Harden forced his way out of now his second situation, which is like, I don't know. He's getting paid millions of dollars. He can opt out this summer. He's gonna be a free agent. And I guess it's the whole pre-agency thing. Somehow he was able to leave a team that had Kyrie and KD. Like you never hear about that. It never happens. And Ben Simmons, who just stopped playing basketball for half a season, even though he's in the middle of I think he's got 4 more years on his contract. And Daryl Morey was like, nah, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. And it obviously worked out for Morey as well as Simmons. But unhappy superstars are a winner of this trade deadline because I don't think anyone has figured out how to like combat it. And I think so few takes I've been hearing, on different podcasts and things like, all right, this is too much. Like, I think it's coming to a point where like, this is an issue. How can like the league, change it? Because I mean, I don't know, John, would you say it's like affecting, your interest or the on-court product? I still think, we just talked about how deep the East is and how fun the East will be. And in large part, that's due to player empowerment, right? So I don't know. Do you think it's negatively affecting the league while it's,
Yeah, so
helping all these unhappy superstars?
I think it's the thing. I think we got to bring back Eli to talk about this with me because he's been replacing me in the past few episodes that I haven't been on, but I think him and I see this very differently. He's a very much an on the court. I just want to watch hoops. Like I watch the WNBA. I'll watch the G League. I'll watch college, like whatever. He's kind of more like that. And I am very much a person who I admit this. I'm very much into the narrative. Like I could miss.
We
Like I could
all
have.
are.
Yeah. Well,
All humans love stories. That's all.
I
It's the
think so.
storytelling. It's the narratives. It's
Some more than others. Like I could miss watching, a couple weeks of basketball, but I'm still paying attention to like all the little stories, which of course, I mean everyone does if they're busy and they can't catch a few games, whatever. But my point is I'm very much into this narrative stuff. So for me, I think it always keeps things interesting. Like at least the league, I would say, is more interesting because, you know, you're gonna tell me you'd rather see Damian Lillard stay with the Blazers than get traded for Russell Westbrook and 4 future draft picks to the Lakers?
never happening.
The Lakers could do that. But like, I want to see that. I want to see LeBron be more fun. And forget, maybe people are gonna convince me, oh, you're just being a LeBron like guy, whatever. Okay, fine. Pick another team in there. Dame to go play or Luka.
Even New York. Even if Dame went to New York, I
New
think
York. I like New York. Like, I want to see, like, I like the storylines or whatever. So for me personally, and I'm an NBA fan, like, through and through, it's not going to affect me. The common fan, it's interesting, So just thinking about like maybe our friends who are more peripheral basketball fans, it's like, oh wait, James Harden, what? Like I think actually our roommate Jason was like, oh, I thought he was on the Rockets. Like what? Like he doesn't really pay attention to the NBA as much. He like knows the big names and stuff. But I remember I was like, oh, James Harden just got traded to the Sixers. Like he missed like James Harden for the past year being on the Nets, which makes sense if you're not
I
following
mean,
it.
that's how quick of a turnaround it was.
So I think there's that. I think as long as you have a few of the teams, as long as you have the Golden State teams, the Warriors, you're gonna have the teams that are moving around. But I think it also looks good. Like, look at the Suns right now. That's because Chris Paul was able to get a few trades here and there. The big blockbuster OKC Paul George and Chris Paul's with OKC, and then he gets swapped now to Phoenix. And so I guess my point is I don't think it's horrible for the league. I think I also heard this though. Bill Simmons said this. David Stern would never have allowed that Ben Simmons situation to happen. Like Adam Silver is kind of a little bit enabling it to an extent. And kind of like what you're saying, these
He's
unhappy
definitely more of a players commissioner than like David
and
Stern was.
they're a little more entitled, like, oh, I'm just gonna go wherever. James Harden, he's the worst of it. But I don't think guys are that bad. I do think it makes the league more interesting because what if Kawhi had stayed in San Antonio? What have they done since then? What if?
Hey, I mean, I don't think you can assume like it's the same as
Whatever.
like look at the Grizzlies. Like the Grizzlies, even if you look at their roster, it's not
I
like their
mean,
roster's
are you
that
gonna pick the Grizzlies to come
flashy.
out of the West, Alex? Are you
No,
gonna do
I
that?
won't. But I might pick Phoenix, who they also, has in.
They
Well,
built,
okay,
they
they
traded.
built, but then they added Chris Paul. So whatever.
My point. I do think we have more contenders because before
No,
this,
you're right. I mean, there's more talent. I think there's more talent in the league.
I'll say
Anyway.
this: in 2017, how much more talented is the league now than it was in 2017? I would say it is because
Yeah, I
Giannis
think so.
here, Luca has arrived, like all these younger guys are there. But at the same time, I'm like, 2017, the league was, and 18, it was like, all right, Cavs Warrior. We literally had 4 years straight of Cavs versus Warriors. Like, come on.
That also has to do with player empowerment, though.
It did, but I think this one's a little better because I'm saying that was more the free agency player empowerment. Like, oh my God, LeBron went wherever he wanted, KD went wherever he wanted. Now it's like it really doesn't matter. Go sign your
No,
5-year extension. You can just get a trade wherever you want and go play with.
but
You can play
yeah,
with
and that I think that's a little much. I think when you sign that many years for that much money, like you should be in. And obviously, on the other side, it doesn't go both ways because we saw Blake Griffin sign it and then get traded, and that was kind of a sad thing that happened. But like now, these NBA players just want to jump ship, and
and
it's
I think
very different.
the
And
worst part is that it does favor the LAs, the Brooklyns, the Phillies, the teams that have these. Like, if you have Simmons, you can swap him for Harden. If like that's my point. Like the Lakers and the Clippers are always going to be in the mix. Like, I don't know what OKC or or
well, they got to
Sacramento.
build. They got to build differently. They got to draft, and they have done a good job. And we'll
Indiana,
see.
I guess I said
But you look,
Indiana.
I mean, you look. There's been a lot of teams that have been able to do it like that, like the Grizzlies, like the Cavs.
Right.
So
Yeah. Right.
anyway,
Cavs are still doing it. So I guess then, yeah, that's my answer. I don't think it's horrible for the league now.
yeah. Well, anyway, John, I have a meeting in a few minutes, but I know we had one loser left in the list. So why don't you give me like 60 seconds on why you think LeBron is a loser for this trade deadline?
All right. I'll just talk about the last 4 games for the Lakers.
Oh
So
my God, that's not gonna take
I
60 seconds.
I had bet on the Lakers 4 games ago. Goes to overtime versus the Knicks. That was a fun game. There was a big comeback. Lakers end up pulling it off. All right. I'm like, all right, they got some momentum. AD and LeBron played well. They benched Westbrook at the end of the game. They get clapped by the Bucks a couple days later. Then they lose a demoralizing game against the Blazers. How? This Blazers team just stripped their whole team naked.
Did LeBron play that game? No, I don't know if he did.
Yes.
He did?
LeBron and AD both played.
Yes.
Okay. And Westbrook didn't actually. So LeBron had 30, 7 and 7, right? It was the whole game where everyone thought he was fine. 27, 7 and 7. So they just got the Blazers were stripped naked, trading away all their assets, and they lose to Anthony Simons. Okay. And now now they have an opportunity, right? Every game you can convince talk yourself into it. They have an opportunity to beat the Warriors. Okay. And what happens? LeBron goes to the free throw line. He needs to knock down 3 free throws to tie the game, go to overtime. Somehow, if the Lakers, that's momentum. They're the 9 seed, whatever, beat the second team in the West, and they lost. To me, I think all hope is lost. Like, they didn't make a big move. I don't know where they go from here. I said this. The Westbrook contract is the worst contract in the NBA. Why? Not because the contract sucks, but because the player with the contract sucks, because you can't just bench that guy. And now they're finally doing it. So maybe they can figure it out. Maybe they sneak in the play-in, but then guess what? You're going up against a juggernaut. You're going up against either, your 7 seed, and you're going up against the 2-seeded Warriors. Not going to happen with Klay Thompson being back. He just had 30 the other night. Or you're going to go up against the Suns, who we haven't talked about. We're playing into the whole narrative that no one talks about the Suns, but the Suns are really freaking good. And
I don't think that's a narrative, though. I don't think is that.
No one really talks about them. But
I
it's
don't know
like
about
a
that.
Spurs thing where everyone respects them, but no one talks about them. Whatever.
Okay.
So I think they're kind of screwed. I mean, the best case scenario, get the 6 seed. I don't know how. Let me see how many games out of the 6 seed. There's 6 games out of the 6 seed. So they can pull it off. Post All-Star break, you got to win 10 straight games or whatever. Let's see LeBron and Anthony Davis do it. But again, like I said, you're losing the Blazers. You're losing all these close games. You have overtime to beat the Knicks.
There hasn't been one good stretch of the Lakers season this year, John.
And if they got the 6 seed, then you could talk yourselves into it. All right, they're going to play the Grizzlies. This team's young. LeBron versus Job. Give me LeBron in the playoffs. He doesn't care about home court, whatever. But I don't know. I think all hope is lost. I don't know what happens next year. And now people are just crapping on LeBron for. I don't think it should be interpreted as bad when he said, "Hey, the Rams, Dodgers, and Lakers should all have a parade together," and
Yeah.
everyone's hating on them. So things don't look good for LeBron right now. Hopefully, in the end, and all said is done, he passes Kareem, and this is just a little footnote on his, his incredible career. But things are not looking good.
All right, John. I think you did a good job squeezing 5 minutes into 60 seconds. That was good there. But I do have to run. So yeah, crazy trade deadline. This was our 51st episode of Double Take. Technically 50 because we did it in 2 and 1. But it was a good time, John. Thank you everyone for listening. John, please feel better. Stay well over there at Pine Manor, and have a good one.
Go Heat.